Welcome everyone to another edition of Birdview tutorial. It's great to have you back. In this edition, we are going to focus our attention on custom fields. If you are new to the Birdview platform, or if you are an existing project manager / system administrator, this is a great refresher that will go through the different elements of managing custom fields in Birdview. We've got an agenda, so let's get right to it. Defining what are custom fields in Birdview. Then we'll take a look at a couple of the common use cases for managing custom fields and why that could potentially be a real game changer for you when you are collating data between multiple systems or just want to have Birdview as your source of truth. Next, we'll take a look at how these custom fields can be configured. What permissions do we require to be able to manage those values that are going to be associated with the custom fields, making tweaks, modifications? What are those permissions that govern that? Next, we'll take a look at the different types of custom fields that Birdview has to offer. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a host of custom fields. There are unique nuances to some of these, so we'll take a closer look at that in this video. We're also going to highlight some of the UI UX improvements that we have made over the course of this past year when it comes to working with custom fields. And most recently, with the introduction of spaces, custom fields is now configurable at a space level. You have the option to continue to define your custom fields at a global level and then port it at a specific space level by pulling it down to that specific space. Alternatively, for each space that you create, you can also add and manage these custom fields right at the space level. So that's a really cool feature we're going to take a look at. And custom fields are also available when you are reporting within the application, when you are using the Birdview custom form builder, and also at the activity center level, we'll take a look at some of the nuances and the benefits of leveraging custom fields in Birdview. So let's get to it. The first item on our agenda is defining what are custom fields in Birdview. As a system administrator of the platform, you have the ability to define custom fields now, both at a space level, as seen here, or at the global level, as most of you are probably configuring today. When you look at a custom field in Birdview, it is the ability for you to be able to define fields that are non-native to the solution. When you look at the project level details and this embedded pane, we make this really easy in Birdview to define what are native fields. The area below project are considered to be all native fields all the way down through this right pane option, as well as the area at the top that includes some pivotal information about the specific project you are working on. And as you scale halfway through this, we have a dedicated section for defining the different custom fields. A great example of that, if you're integrating with HubSpot and you require to store the company ID field, that's where, as part of your field mapping process, create a corresponding custom field in Birdview, and then as part of your integration, you can get to update this HubSpot company ID field. The same goes with defining fields that are unique to your business or your project management needs, is being able to define who the project sponsor is. And that leads partway to what are some of the common use cases to managing custom fields or requiring custom fields to be configured in a PM solution. From integrations with third-party applications like your CRM solution of HubSpot, Salesforce, and the list goes on, while also requiring to be able to consolidate information and having Birdview serve as that single source of truth, looking at a field like project sponsor. Who in fact is sponsoring this particular project? When you click on the list available, you see all the different values. These values, of course, over a period of time will need to be conditioned and updated, and that's the responsibility of a system administrator to be able to manage that. Which leads us into our next item is the management and permission access level granted to someone to be able to define these custom fields and manage these core values for each of the different custom fields configured. The permissions can be easily found using the KB article, which I will put in our description for this particular video. But the key permission here is to ensure that your access level, more than likely you're going to be a system administrator that has the access level of manage system settings, granting you the permission to be able to create and modify these custom fields through the global menu that's available. You're honing in on custom fields, and then you're able to support the values that apply to some of the existing custom fields, reorder them, reshape them, limit them from visibility to specific portfolios. All of that is done on the back end of the system across this global menu. Now, with the introduction of spaces, the same can be done if you're considered a space administrator. When you click on the gear wheel icon to get to the space settings, here you've got a new tab in the header menu for custom fields, and you can define these as space level custom fields, or you can pull from a global level custom field. The next item on our agenda is to be able to look at the different objects where custom fields can be defined and the different field types that are supported within the Birdview application. In order to do that, we go to our custom fields. We will select the option to add a custom field. And when adding a custom field, one of the first things you're going to require to do, right where it highlights new field, is the label. So defining a label is going to be very important. We're going to set up a custom field here called project lead. It's going to be a single select custom field. So we want to make sure that we've got the right field object. In this case, we want it to be at the project level. It's a project lead custom field that we're looking to define. If there is a description that is required, you can add that description value here. And Birdview will use this information to serve as a tooltip just in case there is any ambiguity surrounding the label project lead. Next, we're going to look at the different field types that are on offer, various different field types. In this instance, we're going to concentrate our attention on list. And here is where we look to update all of our values. So nice and easy. When you look at the project level field, this is not the only object that we support. There are several different objects. Let's take a closer look. Activity. This could be a custom field that I want to see across the board when it comes to the different activity types, be it a task, issue, request, even a milestone for that matter, because a milestone is nothing but a tag to a task activity type. Now, if I want it to be very specific and I need it to be at a task level, then I'm going to choose task to define my custom field, request, issue, customer. If I want to have customer level important custom fields, maybe storing the primary contact for the specific company that I'm working with. User level custom fields, maybe my business requires me to store LinkedIn profiles, the employee date of joining, all these additional fields that can be easily configured and stored in the back end of the solution. Same applies for portfolio as well. On the front end is the expense level custom fields. So when you talk about expenses, some businesses like to track their expenses to specific cost centers or GL codes. You have the ability here to define that information and create your expense level custom fields. Same goes with time entry. When I'm recording a time entry, I want to make sure that that time entry is applied to a specific cost center so I can create a time entry level custom field. Now we'll go through all of this in greater detail a little bit later, but these are the different objects that are available for us. As we scroll down the list, there is also an option as part of configuring your custom field is the ability to limit its visibility to a specific portfolio. If I choose this particular option, I can now tell the application to show this particular field only for projects included in the selected portfolios. And here is where I can identify that specific portfolio. I can save this information. Should the need arise, you can also show it for projects not included in the defined portfolios. And save. Now, when you save this information, the field for project is locked, as is the field type. So it's really important, if you are going to make a change, take the time to review this, make sure everything is configured correctly, and then hit the save button, especially if it's a really long list of values that you require to update. You don't want to have to repeat that process again. We'll save this information, and next we'll take a closer look at some of the UI UX improvements when it comes to working with custom fields. Our product team continues to work relentlessly to improve the application through your valuable feedback, one of which in recent times has been the ability to be able to group all of the different custom fields that are configured in the backend, more so to assist system administrators in trying to administer the different custom fields that they've got. So this option is now available, where you can expand on a specific custom field object and you will be able to see the different custom fields. You can collapse as required. We're also summarizing the number of fields that are available here. Very, very important. As you expand, if there are portfolio visibility restrictions, we've added that information here. The pink little briefcase icon in Birdview is the representation of a portfolio. If there was a description that you had included, that description information would be here. In the case of project target start date, there's that description value here. It is restricted to a portfolio called Service Now. All of that wonderful information is available here. As we continue working our way from the left to the right, we've even got the ability to search for a specific custom field. So now if I wanted to be able to search for service or anything service related, I've got hits for service. It's going to search across the board. It's found a couple in the task level object as well, and I get to see all of that information here highlighted in a nice bright yellow. We've also gone ahead and added the ability to show all objects. If there are specific objects here that you don't want to see, you can always come in here and uncheck a specific box, and maybe you just want to hone in on just expenses. You're able to do so by clicking on the show field and focus on a specific aspect of your groupings. For right now, we're going to go ahead and we want to be able to see all these different objects. When we take a closer look at Project Lead has these different values that we've defined, but against each value as well, we've got this color cell that we've added. So if you are required to have a color associated with a specific value, you're now able to choose from this vast array of this color palette that we've got and be able to define that. Should your business or your reporting needs not require that, simply select the blank value here, and you don't have to include any of these color cells. But it does add a breath of fresh air and color when you're working in the Activity Center when you do add a color value to these. The required option here, previously we used to call it mandatory. It's now transitioned to the word required, essentially meaning the same, that if I have a specific custom field and I want to draw attention to it, we can now check this box off. And visually, when we look at this on the Activity Center side a little bit later in the tutorial, you will see how this stands out. So it brings light and attention to the end user to ensure that that required field is completed. And we'll save. When it comes to some of the nuances that you need to be mindful of when working with custom fields, when it comes to a field type text, this is typically when you want to enter a value that is no more than 250 characters. You want to choose the text field. This will allow you to put in a value. The number field is also very important to know here that it is not alphanumeric, it is strictly numeric. So if I need a field called project ID and I want to then perhaps incrementally increase it by 1, I can choose the auto increment option. I can say that I want my projects to start with 2000, then the next time I create a new project, it will start at 2001. So we do offer you the auto increment option should you go with the number, but again, keeping in mind, if this number happens to be an amount, we don't show decimal values. If it is required, you're going to select required. Now, what's interesting as well when it comes to required, the required field, that is being able to show in red on the front end of the tool that some of these fields are required, is not available across the board. When I choose a Boolean field, the required option is not available. So there's a little bit of that nuance when you're working with the required field. It is important to pay attention at some of those nuances there. As we go through the list, date is available as a required field, and a date can be very straightforward. There is no date format. We typically would follow the format that is defined in the browser settings, be it Chrome, be it Edge, be it Firefox. The Boolean field, again, no required options here, but you do have the ability to be able to limit its visibility to a specific portfolio. List does have the required option, and here you can do a Control-V to copy a whole host of values, much like we did a little bit earlier when copying over the project lead. When it comes to text area, so this is something more substantiated information. It's less of an input field. Maybe I needed someone's email address previously, so I just went with the text field. But if I need a little more of a description on the issue that is being described, I'm going to go ahead and choose text area as my field type. And of course, it is required, or the required option is available. We also have text area rich formatting. So this is where you want to be able to offer the end user that's going to be leveraging this particular field to be able to put in some additional formatting to it, maybe highlighting items in bold and adding a little bit of color to what is being shared. A hyperlink, of course, is great when you have a Dropbox link that you want to refer your documents to. A hyperlink may be pointing to a specific URL, wonderful, and is also available as a required field. What is not available as a required field is your multi-selects. Notice there that required checkbox is not available, but multi-select is very critical when your specific custom field requires you to select more than one value. So if I'm entering information, and I have several values to be able to choose from, so I need to be able to choose if I have a specific field value where I require to define my project sponsor, and it could potentially be more than one value, then this would be the ideal field selection, and you'll be able to put in your values here. You also have the option to limit it to a specific portfolio. And lastly, the formula field. This was introduced last year as well, where you have the ability to leverage formulas. Now, there's a whole separate section on configuring the formula custom field. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but I will put that in the description, both referring to the tutorial as well as the video tutorial, as well as the KB article pertaining to the formula custom field. While staying with spaces, there's also a couple important nuggets of information to share. You have the ability within Birdview to be able to reorder some of these custom fields. Now, if you pay close attention to the order here, we've got project lead right at the top. That's the first field that we want to appear. When we click on our project details embedded view, we want that to reflect project lead, followed by the project sponsor, and then the HubSpot company ID. So whatever you order here doesn't necessarily change what's been set up and configured at the global level. At the global level, the order is quite different. So even the ordering of your custom fields is now space specific. So if we go back to this particular space and we see the order, That's the information we're going to be able to see when we click on a project details. And I click the embedded view. It is now reflective of that order that we applied at the space level. Staying with spaces, if we're commonly asked if we were to remove a custom field from this particular space, is that going to remove it from the global level custom field as well? And the answer to that is no. If I go ahead and execute this option of remove by clicking on the waste bin icon, we are clearly indicating to you that it is still going to be available in your company settings. You're just removing it and essentially pointing it back to the custom global fields. So we hit the remove button, no impact. Now it's different when you are deleting. If you delete something and it is inadvertent, unfortunately we're going to have to restore that custom field. So pay very close attention to the warnings before you execute either a deletion or a remove. When it comes to reporting is available depending on the permissions that you've got. If you select a specific report and this report includes custom fields, you're clearly able to build out your report and add fields that are essentially custom fields. So a great example of that was the HubSpot company ID, the project sponsor, the project lead. I'll do a quick save and run, and I get values to that information using the native report generator. Custom fields as well is extended to the custom form builder. Here we're looking at an example of a form called the project intake form. And if I pay close attention to the different building blocks that I've applied here, as part of my conversion rule, I can stipulate as well when working with these custom fields that we've configured, planned start date, planned due date. These aren't native fields. This is custom field that I can leverage as part of my form builder creation. So when I convert my specific form, once I get those values, I am directly mapping it to the desired level. So a start date is going to get mapped. Target start date could get mapped to the planned start date, and a target end date label could get mapped to the planned end date. So again, using the custom field options, and this is available for list fields, multi-select fields, text field inputs. So really flexible when it comes to leveraging the custom field in the form builder. Lastly, we're going to take a look at the nuances of working with custom fields in the Activity Center. We've spent a lot of time working through custom fields in the back end, looking at the different configurations. All of that leads to the impact of custom fields on the front end of the solution. Primarily working in your Activity Center or your My Assignments page, when you click at the project level details, you're going to see all of the custom fields that you have specified as an object at the project level. If I click on task, and I am looking at task specific or activity, across the board activity custom fields, and they're all accumulated here in this section of the embedded view. So on the right hand side are our native fields. On the left hand side in this bottom lower pane is all of our custom fields. You might find these hidden at times, so you do need to click on show custom fields, especially if there's a very long list of custom fields here. When we talked earlier about managing custom fields, one of those options was the ability to be able to choose custom fields and leverage them where they are considered required fields. We've also given you the option now to use the multi-selector, where you can choose all of the fields and set them up as required or optional. Just another quick and easy and efficient way for you as system administrators to manage. Now, when working with that required field, If I look at project details, I've got some fields here that are constituted as our custom fields, the project lead, the project sponsor, and paying close attention to the HubSpot company ID. We are flagging it, so visual attention is given to the specific field when it's marked as required. We're going to take a closer look at the space, look at the custom field settings, and here when I look at HubSpot company ID, the box is checked for required, and that's that visual representation that we see here. Now, when I put in a value, that value is now stored. If I attempt to delete this value and try and backspace from here, pay close attention, no matter where I go, it is automatically defaulting to that required value. When we look at custom fields as in the embedded view, as we see here with the activity owner, the same field rather than it being accessible through the embedded option. So I got to click on details to be able to see this. The same information can also be made available here. If I were to click on the column option and look up activity owner, I can add that as part of my save view. Right from here, you can also update your values for a specific custom field. So really powerful. You don't have to go into details. You can add this, you can reposition it, resize it much like you would with our native fields. But what's really great about it is the ability to be able to just cherry pick like you would if you were working in an Excel spreadsheet and be able to select a different value. Now, if these values need to get updated or modified or reordered, that responsibility lies with the space administrator or the global administrator. So when working with a custom field and you see this particular warning, keep in mind we are now informing you that this custom field does not belong to projects in the HubSpot portfolio. So although you've gone ahead and added a custom field like target end date, we are telling you that this particular custom field does not belong for projects in the HubSpot portfolio, so you can't make any edits to it. Very, very powerful, very informative. And this is a unique change that you can appreciate while working within the Activity Center. Lastly, we're going to close here by looking at filters. If I wanted to filter and I want to look up a custom field information. So the first order of business is being able to add that custom field. In this example, we're going to go ahead and add the HubSpot company ID as a great example. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to clear all the other filters. I'm going to choose HubSpot company ID. I have pulled up the HubSpot company ID from the HubSpot application. I'm going to go ahead and copy that information here, and immediately the application has given me a hit. When I look at the task level details, I do know that this particular field exists at the project level, and sure enough, there's that information. Now, when working with custom fields, you do have the option to leverage global search. But what's important to recognize, it does take a little bit of time for the indexing to work. So if I go back here and try and do a search for Baron, because Baron was the project sponsor for one of our projects, it will not give me that information almost immediately. But once that indexing process is completed in the background, I can certainly leverage global search to be able to get that. But what can I do in the interim is go to my filters. I can go to add a project sponsor filter, identify Baron as the project sponsor, and sure enough, I'm able to get that result. Another important aspect when working with custom fields and its interaction with guest users. So if you have guest user accounts that use the application and they are collaborating with a regular licensed user, whenever the guest user creates either a request or an issue. So the guest portal account here has the option as a guest user to be able to log in a request or an issue. When it comes to a custom field that a guest resource has created, if I click on this particular activity that clearly says the author of this is a guest user, they will have the ability to be able to modify the custom field value. Pay close attention here that this is a user, which is considered Mike, the guest user. We see this information here, and they have that. Alternatively, if they are invited to collaborate on a particular issue or a task, at a task level, they are not allowed to modify any of those custom fields. But when it comes to an issue as well, where they are not the author of that specific issue, this object will be grayed out for them. But if we look at a specific task, for instance, and we look at any custom fields associated with task, they have no option to be able to modify those values when it comes to custom field changes. So really important nugget of information there. And there you have it, a very comprehensive overview of all things custom fields in Birdview. We certainly hope you will leverage custom fields going forward. Thank you for watching. And as always, please do send in your suggestions to success@birdviewpsa.com. Thank you.